I hear a lot people in the New Age talking, oh, you know, I can access this dimension and that dimension and so on and so on. But they have missed the point. By definition, the choice of their soulic aggregate was to make the main experience in the 3D. By definition, right? If this soulic aggregate wanted to make an experience in the 9th dimension, in the 120th dimension, it would not have given life to a physical body. So it's the ego speaking, oh, look what I can do. But substantially, there is no such thing. As long as the soulic aggregate gives life force to that human expression, that is the dimension that is to be experienced.
Welcome to the Voices of the One Mind, where the elixir of wisdom flows freely. Join us as we dive into the profound thoughts of extraordinary human beings who embody wisdom, offering insights that serve as a bridge to awakening. Unshackling minds from the chains of suffering, our conversations pave the way for enhanced health, enriched lives, and exponential spiritual growth. Get ready to sip on the nectar of the One Mind with us.
And here I am again with Bear, who would help us understand the deeper process of the traps, factors in the spiritual awakening. And my first curiosity for today's episode is, how do we discern truth in a distorted world? Just to give you a bit more context on this, in the age of where information is overloaded, social media echo chambers, and deepening polarization, many of us are experiencing a crisis of discernment. Truth feels increasingly subjective, and the lines between fact, belief, and manipulation have blurred. These questions arises from a desire to understand the deeper energetic, psychological, and spiritual roots of this global confusion we are now experiencing. What would be your perspective on this, Bear?
Well, we have to understand that the world the human body is living in is not made to be the truth. So whenever we are talking about the spiritual exploration, I don't like the word the spiritual seeker so much, but to explore on the spiritual path. And you were mentioning that discernment is a big point. But what does discernment really mean? Discernment means that I need to be able to judge through intuition what is the right thing and what is the wrong thing for me. I'm not talking about right and wrong in general. But what does that already imply? If I'm already at the stage that I need to discern something, it already implies that I'm not sure about what I'm doing, right? And to make a long story short, all of these things are happening when I focus my spiritual growth, instead of retrieving my spiritual knowing, in gaining spiritual knowledge in the outside. So there is a huge difference between I go on my spiritual path by inquiry, by emptying the vessel, and hence liberating, as the Native Americans call it, this hollow bone, so that what is the sacred, what is God, can fill up and live through that vessel, in opposition to reading a lot of, I want to paint it a little bit drastically, reading a lot of books where I need to apply a lot of discernment. Is this for me? Is that for me? And then people get completely confused because they are seeking their answers in the outside. And that is the big difference. There is no answer to find in the outside, because by definition, this world is something that will always trouble the human mind that is engaging with the world, that is seeking something in that world.
Thank you very much for this profound answer. I would continue to say that as a spiritual seekers, also on my journey, but also from others sharing with me, with us, we grow in awareness. They often begin to notice patterns of control in different systems, relationship culture, and so on. Awakening also bring this insight that outer reality often mirror inner dynamics. And I would like to ask, if I see and one see control mechanism in the outside of me, do I have a challenge or issue with control inside me? And if so, how do we heal that?
Well, the question always is, who is it that needs to be healed? Who is it that would potentially have control, an issue of a control mechanism on the inside? I mean, control is not something that people on the inside, in their mind, have control. Control is just an outcome of a much deeper laying topic, and that topic is insecurity, is fear. And people who are insecure, who fear, who worry a lot in their life, they tend to over control things, right? And then the question, as I said before, who is it that is in this fear, in this worry, who is looking for control? It's the ego. It's the ego. When I say ego, just because I know that there is so much discussion out in the world that people say, yeah, but ego is something good. No, the ego that we are talking here is that construct that tries to control life. So to make that clear, whenever I speak about an ego, I'm talking about this mental construct that perceives itself separated from other, that perceives itself separated from the rest of the world, and hence tries to influence and control its own unfolding of life. So that is the ego in definition, how I want to be understood when I talk about ego. So ego is not when people say, yeah, but ego is important to have a certain individual expression in life. But that's not ego. It has nothing to do with an ego to express myself individually, because that is exactly why we have all these manifold of beautiful flowers, as I want to call all sentient beings, in all different colors, in all different heights, in all different shapes and forms and expressions. But that has nothing to do with an ego. That's again, that the entire beauty of the oneness. And so the question we have to come to, who is seeking for that control? It is that ego that has not yet matured a certain let's say awakening or spiritual growth in order to be more in ease. Once we have come back to the core understanding, because again, all we are doing on a spiritual path is only to remember. It's nothing to learn something new or to do something new. It's only to remember where we have started in that beautiful, loving innocence on our journey here on earth. And we want to, on a spiritual path, what we want to gain is that beautiful, loving awareness, innocence that we had on day one when we came as a manifested vessel on the earth walk here. So there we want to come back as an adult person, right? And the sooner the better. So that's all. That's all. Spiritual awakening is not a lot of flashy lights and a lot of colorful cosmic sceneries that people describe after they have taken various substances. The true spiritual path, and when we have truly arrived, if we want to call it as a goal, then it is when we are remembered. We are remembered, not we remember. Re again and member to be part of. So we are a member again of that consciousness, that unfiltered consciousness, that unconditioned consciousness that we have been starting in the very beginning. So it's all about that. It's all about that remembering in order to come to an ease again. And very bluntly said, I always say, we must not take life so serious, because only a being that takes life extremely serious falls into that trap of control, starts to worry, have a lot of fears. And if we are able to take life with ease, and if we are able to see that earth walk, that life, as a beautiful play, and we walk it in that way, we are slowly freeing ourselves more and more and more from that entrapment that we need to produce every day, that we need to do certain things every day. And at the long run, we will understand that we also want to let go of desires. We want to let go of ambition, because these desires and this ambition is exactly that gives us this unease in life. We desire something, and in order to achieve this desire, we need to accomplish something. And on that way of accomplishment, we have a lot of sorrow. We have also a lot of suffering. And or we don't have suffering and sorrow on the way, but then all of a sudden we have achieved it. We have accomplished our desire. And then we feel, that's actually meaningless. I don't care about it anymore. Then we are running for a new desire. So it's constantly a new running for new desires, for new accomplishments. And only when we, on a later, let's say, on a more advanced stage of our remembering journey, we realize again that letting go of these desires and ambitions is what eventually frees us from suffering.
You said very beautifully that we are entrapped in many aspects, and what I felt, and here I can speak mainly about myself, as I perceive at the beginning spiritual awakening, as I took it as a very mental process. So I was looking for rituals, for all kinds of practices that are out there, thinking that this will help me evolve. Spiritual awakening can become a form of attachment.
I would like to give you a little anecdote. Or a little example, when people are on the spiritual path, or what they perceive as spiritual path. Meaning, people are in their daily work life, they are stressed, they have issues, maybe issues at work, issues with the family, health issues, whatsoever. And all of a sudden, there is something that calls for a deeper view on it. Sometimes it's really a pain where people go through physical pain, that this triggers to see the whole life in a different perspective. And then people start to look and what comes to them on the so-called spiritual life. Some people go into the Eastern philosophy and start to do yoga and then meditation. Other people do Tai Chi and Qigong and read a lot of books. And again, other people are going more for shamanism or the First Nation cultures and so on. And wherever you see these people, what you're saying, that they get attached to things, and that's why my little anecdote is, I have been staying a lot of time with the Native American Indians, the Blackfeet in Montana. And when they use a drum, for example, it has no meaning for them. It's just something, it's just a tool that they drum and then they just forget it even, after a ceremony. They forget and they just borrow a drum quickly from someone. If people in Europe are coming to that road, each and everyone needs to have his own drum. And then they start to glorify and holify the drum and paint on the drum and do all kind of things. And if you look at the drum and say, wow, it's a beautiful drum, and that happened to me many times, may I hold it, may I play it? No, it's a sacred drum, and it's like this and that. So and this happens to all things. When people are on a spiritual path, they start to glorify not only things, but they start to have an ideology about their gurus, their masters, their leaders, putting pictures of their gurus and whatever everywhere, as if the physical vessel in that picture would have any meaning. It has absolutely no meaning on a cosmic understanding, because there is no soul. So it's only the story in the head of the disciple that, when looking to this picture, creates some internal good feeling, but that feeling again comes from the outside, triggered from that picture. So radical truth is one of the aspects. Radical truth, to be willing to strip myself completely naked. If I really want to deepen my journey of remembering, I need to radically strip myself empty beyond all the stories. Beyond all the stories of glorifying spiritual leaders or gurus. Oh, because that is just all a trap. It just constantly leads us away. All of this, spiritual books, following as a disciple gurus and leaders and all these kind of things, they are constantly leading us away from that one point of sitting and being radically true to oneself, going into this deep inquiry. What is it when Buddha said, when you meet Buddha, kill Buddha? Or what is the meaning of that? It's exactly that. It's exactly that. Meaning, if you meet me, forget me. Don't glorify me. I don't become more spiritual because I have a lot of Buddha statues somewhere, or because I all of a sudden dress in the way of a culture that I am connected to. Let it be Native Americans, let it be Siberia, and so on. Just because I dress like a Siberian shaman or like a Native American medicine man with a feather, that doesn't show anything of how deep I have gone into my inquiry. It probably shows the opposite, that I'm touching it on a very superficial level, playing with these things. I always call it playing with these things. It's just another hobby. It's just another hobby. It's just another hobby, like mountain biking. You know, when people are fully into mountain biking, it's just an example, or surfing or whatever, they buy the best gear and then they clean their best gear, and they are hanging their bikes, they are bringing it to their apartment and hanging it into the living room. Right? And on the spiritual, on that so-called spiritual path, it's the very same thing. And then people create that what you call a spiritual ego, because they perceive themselves as knowledgeable, because now they know how to drum, now they know how to do an ayahuasca ceremony, now they know how to use a mala or beads or whatsoever. So, but that is a trap. That is a huge trap. That is a very, very big trap. It's always a projection of that still ego. Before I don't strip off that ego that feels itself separated from the other. And I have experienced it myself so many times around the world, in so many, with so many different people who perceive themselves on the spiritual path, and they don't have their heart open. And no one has the heart fully open, absolutely. But there is a difference of if I'm in my ego world, in my very closed world, or if I'm benevolent and sharing to other people and open to other people. And this is something that is very much missed in that trap of the so-called spiritual awakening. And then there is I mentioned before, when people have a spiritual awakening, they are looking for kind of different approaches, may it be the Eastern yoga, may it be Native American Indians and shamanism, and in Siberia, African ceremony. I forgot a third one. It's all the people that are in their spiritual connection with all kind of star beings and star seeds and yeah, it's all just a very, very, very big illusion. It's all an ego illusion. I'm not saying it's an illusion that these things exist. What I'm saying is to perceive oneself of now having understood something of the entirety, because I'm following a certain path, and then I'm just going again in that very tunnel. It's nothing else than another religion. Everything is a religion. Everything. It's a religion, and then I follow the religion that is New Age. New Age is also a religion. All these ayahuasca ceremonies and so on. This is nothing else than a religion. It's nothing else than a religion. So, and I'm just trapped again and again. Where this comes from is always still from the lens of that ego. And as long as this ego is not dissolved, until then, we are far away on our path of remembering. We are far away from that remembering.
I'm very happy that you touch this in your answer, the fact that we are attached to many different forms and objects in order to attain some kind of enlightenment, right? Because we think that, and I do not say that, let's say, crystals cannot purify the water. However, what I notice is like we are more focusing on the practice rather than the outcome by doing a practice, and also we want to try different things, and then we are stressing ourselves mentally and energetically and physically with practice rather than going to the simplicity of it and doing it more conscious. So what is your perspective on attachment of this, whatever you call it, crystals, amethyst, as you said, drums, all kinds of things? In my perception, after a long journey, I think one, as you say, can be also naked and just be and focus on the outcome. What is your perspective on that?
Well, every being on its path is absolutely free by its choice to use and do and embark in whatsoever feels needed. There is no good or bad. What we are trying to make people understand is always the same thing. At one stage you are suffering, but do you remember why you are suffering? Do you remember why you are suffering? No, you don't. You are suffering because something happened at one stage that you did a choice, and that's why you are suffering. And the question here only is, the more of these things that we accumulate in our lives, and I'm speaking absolutely from my own experience, the more we have to run, we have to stress, and that is at the end. If a person is overstressed, is burned out, whatever, that's suffering. And nobody likes that. So this is the point. This is the point here. And as you said, there is absolutely no doubt that crystals have a benevolence energy. And Paramahansa Yogananda was emphasizing for people to wear the astro bangles. It's this silver, copper and gold bracelet bangle that empower your chakras and protect from energies. And absolutely yes, metaphysical level, this is absolutely happening. The question is only, how much do I identify with this? Before, Native Americans, they used the drum because, for what reason? Only for mimicking the sound of Mother Earth. That's all their intention. All they want to do is to hear that sound of Mother Earth. That's all. They don't care if that sound of Mother Earth is coming from a very beautiful and a painted drum or whatsoever. As long as the sound is there, and that's what they need to, what they are going for. And to say that, the Westerners, they go for the decoration of the drum and to show, wow, look, I'm on the red road now because I have this beautiful drum. Just an example, right? Instead of really understanding what I do with that sound. Because here is the point. I do something with that sound. The moment that sound comes in and I'm able to fully perceive the sound, but I'm focusing on the sound, then this triggers something. This invites to opening the chakras, to opening different channels. And then things can come again, talking about the hollow bone or the empty vessel, can fill up. And so, very simply said, whenever we try to run a spiritual show, I've met so many people that that so many that told me they have been on so many ayahuasca ceremonies, and I just couldn't see in them that they are reflected, that they are in a process of inquiry. I just could not see that. So, and I'm not judging that at all. Point being is, if you want to come to the core, you need to do it with yourself. You must not try to find it in a book, and you must not try to find it in a substance. This is just another run-off. It's just, okay, I have tested life, okay, I'm so stressed as a manager, I cannot do it anymore, but this weekend I have heard they do an ayahuasca ceremony, I'm just running there. But that's not what is liberating. I can give another quick metaphor on this. If you look, nowadays people are working in a very stressful environment, in offices and so on. And what do these people do? Not all of them, but many of them. They come home after work, and the first thing they do is they run to the gym, or they go for running in nature or whatever. But the way how they practice that so-called sport is absolutely unhealthy for the body, whatever they do. It doesn't matter if they run, if they swim, if they go body weightlifting. Because it's still always in their lens of achieving something. It's not in the lens of relaxing. It's achieving. I need to run another 5 kilometers. I need to lift another 25 kilos 20 times. I need to do that. And that is very unhealthy for the human vessel. So it is much healthier for a human body, for example, if you have a stressful day, instead of going to the gym and run again and run in the forest, whatever, just go to the forest, sit there, walk. Instead of swimming like sports swimming, just put yourself into a pond or a lake and just drift around and enjoy the energy there. That gives you much, much more power. So humans do things constantly in a way of they want to achieve something, and then in a way that they want to be honored for it, praised for it, or wow, you're so good, you did such a great job. This like fishing for attention, fishing for compliments. And they are doing it to themselves. They are doing it to themselves. There is a constant chatter going on inside of I need to achieve this and I need to achieve that, and then I'm good. I mean, there are people that speak with their ancestors, their late ancestors, and say, "Hey, Father, do you see now I'm good? I achieved this. I built up that company. Do you finally see that I'm good?" And coming back to the topic of the trap that we have on that spiritual path, is exactly that that humans go on that spiritual path from that ego, from that same lens as they before managed something, or still do, as before they went to the gym. It's all about achieving something, when exactly the spiritual path needs only one thing: not achieving anything. Letting go of all the ideas, letting go of all the achievements, letting go of all the accomplishments, of that idea that I'm a better person because now I have so and so much money on my bank account, or because I made a career and now I'm super off in this world. This is an ego that is bathing itself in that self-made idea of a honey, and now everything is good. But it's just a trap. It's a very big trap.
I mean, not to add that when we are doing exercises instead of, like, as you say, deepening. We are also connecting very much with Bluetooth and devices in nature and so on, instead of so that's also a toxicity that I experience, especially with me, because I cannot speak for others. And yes, we are looking always for the magic pill, being, as you said, disconnection. I take a pill instead of paying, as you say, pay attention inside out. We are just looking for some magic pills that can help us with the attention that we pay to ourselves. You mentioned in one of your answers today that until the ego dissolves. Well, about this topic, is enough a lifetime on earth to dissolve the ego? Because based on what I internally feel is that along our path here on earth, we will have less or more, but ego will be always there, right?
Is a lifetime enough to dissolve an ego? Well, that is a very big question, because nowadays people only live 70, 80 years. Humans have the capability to live much, much, much longer.
Well, let's stop you here a bit, because I just want to mention I'm not looking for statistics, as you say. Yes, okay. Then I will rephrase a bit the question, saying, is ego dissolving, or we have less or more during our earth experience, or can you dissolve it for all? And here I don't want to compare at all with yogis or bring them into conversations, because that's another level.
The human being on its earth walk, in its human aggregate, will always have notions of egoism, you know. Will fall every now and then in that little trap to feel itself separated from all there is. Absolutely, a lifetime is enough, because lifetime, we are talking about time and space, which is an illusion. So an ego can be resolved in this very moment. It's not something that someone really needs to take a long time and do one step and a second step and the third step. The question is, how radical true can you be to yourself, the I am? That is the fundamental question. Because if I don't know who I am, I will not be able to dissolve anything. If I'm in that trap of being the body, being the name, being the job, and I will say it in all our conversations, because that is the fundamental point, the more I'm entrapped in that story, the less my ability to reflect my ego lens that I have to the world, my me and I consciousness, the whole consciousness, that how I see the world and everything around me stems from that me and I. And what does that mean? Me and I, do I feel comfortable, is always the first question. Instead of the question needs to be, is it comfortable for all? If I'm doing this, is it comfortable and good for all? That needs to be the question, not is it comfortable, does it feel good now for me? This is the first trap of separation, that I'm constantly looking for comfort for my ego self, for my story self. I'm looking that I have the better off, that I have the better job in the company, that that I push away my colleague or whatever, that all these kind of things, that I have the better seat in the theater, that I am the first one in line, that I get the best last avocados in the store. This is exactly that me and I consciousness lens. And as long as I have this me and I consciousness, it's absolutely impossible to start any inquiry, because there is no access to anything that would understand that there is a much greater consciousness available than the me and I consciousness, namely the cosmic consciousness.
Beautiful said. I want to give you a bit more context for the following question. So, while many teachings emphasize about the power of intention, about personal responsibility, some patterns that we follow in reality, like war, societal structures, or environmental shifts that feel immovable, I would like to ask, are there some parts of our reality that can not be changed by the individual because they are created by the collective, and this cannot be overwritten?
It's a very interesting question, but I would need to ask, what is the individual and what is the collective? Because this by itself, again, is an illusion, and such a perception can only stem from the lens of a me and I consciousness. Because when I perceive myself, the I am, that I am the lens, I don't want to use mirror, but the lens of all there is, how can a society or a collective change something that is or implement something that is not that this individual being is not able to change? We have to see on what level we are talking. If we are talking about the human aggregate, and a society, a collective decides we build a wall here, yeah, well, this one being cannot walk over that wall, right? But that is on a very practical level, a very 3D level. While when you talk about how life of an individual being can unfold, what possibilities you have in life, and so on, the solic aggregate of a human being obviously comes with a certain blueprint, okay? But that blueprint is only, let me put it that way, a starting platform. And for some, the starting platform can be very wobbly, and for some, the platform can be in concrete, very firm. But that doesn't mean that the person that comes with a very wobbly starting platform has not the same possibilities than the person that comes with a very firm, concrete platform. The possibilities are always the same, because each sentient being has access to cosmic intelligence. So it doesn't really matter where you start off and when you start off and how you start off. So some people have chosen, some solic aggregates have chosen to go a harder way. And when I say hard, I don't mean it in opposition that something light or soft or easy is better. It is what that soulic aggregate on its earth walk wants to experience. There is no such thing as some kind of an entity, which people in the great religions, in some great religions, perceive as this one Father God that decides over the lambs, and if they do this, they will achieve that, and if they don't, they will not. And this is an illusion. This is a complete illusion. Each sentient being stems as the being in its carnation, in its earth walk here, from the cosmic intelligence of the one mind. So there is not something else that decides over an earth walk, you can do this and you can do that. It is literally the consciousness of the human being that then starts to decide how a life unfolds. Whether a life unfolds in misery, or a life unfolds in ease and grace. The potential that each and every human being on its earth walk has is to live in this paradise world in a full bliss. That is the potential, and that is the pure reality. This is heaven, and each life can be lived in full bliss, in full peace. Now, human consciousness currently has decided, currently means in this moment, to live an opposite way. To live in fear, in killing, in war, in suffering, and in pain. And that's all by choice. There is no being, and that's why I always say, when you hear people talking, or when you're listening to people that are very deeply stuck in the New Age world, a savior will come. Maitreya Buddha is coming. A second Buddha is coming. The second Christ coming. The good forces, the good angels, the good star beings that will help us, that they will come. This is all absolutely what the yogic culture calls Maya, a big, big deception and illusion. A big deception illusion, only from one thing. Instead of looking here, metaphorically saying, instead of looking to here, you are now looking to there, so you cannot see, you can never feel and see what's going on here. Because all your focus and your attention and your consciousness goes in the wrong direction. So whenever you bring your consciousness to a consciousness within, what means within? We all have this same gesture that when you say within, we go like this. But there is nothing inside this body. Within means that we are not getting entrapped in all kind of information and deceptions that are out there in the world. You see, one example. The soulic aggregate is a very sacred aggregate. And when this soulic aggregate decides to give life to a manifested matter, human body whatsoever, it is not programmed or capable. It's not programmed by anyone. It's not capable, for example, once it's this life is living on its earth walk, to get to deal with information that are not directly related to that physical expression. What does that mean? The human body that is living in Rome lives the best way if it's only enclosed in everything that is going on around that person in Rome. The soulic aggregate cannot deal with information of a war that is thousands of kilometers away, with murder that happened in another city far away, with demonstration and riots on a street that is 5,000, 6,000 kilometers away. That creates chaos in that aggregate. And that creates also a lot of suffering. That creates a lot of worrying. Because in my reality, this is not here. But because I hear that it is somewhere else, I start to perceive as the individualized human, this ego, I start to perceive, well, then it can also happen here. Oh my God, if this happened here, I need to prepare myself. And even if I don't think in a very subliminal, it is stored. This constant information, propaganda, and so on that is going on in this world. And even worse, since we have social media and internet. Much, much worse. So, there is we were talking about discernment in the beginning. It's a very big discernment to do is what kind of information you are feeding yourself. And many people say, well, I don't watch TV anymore and I don't obviously read newspapers, but then they are still on the Instagram and you see the very same things going on there. And this is a complete big distortion, And to come back to your question before, is one lifetime enough to come over the ego? Probably always less and less and less, because the human body, the mind is too full with information that don't belong there. And so it's a very big confusion and a very big chaos. And unfortunately, humanity has come to a stage, if you talk to people today and say, hey, don't bother with the war that is going on in a far country. It's not none of your thing, none of your business. People say, yeah, but you need to be informed. What are you saying? You need to be informed. You need to know all these things. I mean, this is, in modern times, we need to be informed about the world. No, we only need to be informed about the world if we want to suffer more and more and more. One of the big points of suffering is that the ego self perceives to accumulate a lot of information that's going on in the entire world. If you are living in London and in Sydney, a skyscraper is falling down. So what does that help you? Absolutely nothing. The only thing what it does is that you all of a sudden walk through London now and look at the skyscraper and think, oh my God, one of these could fall down as well. And so what happens? You are constantly walking in fear. This is one example. You are getting hundreds of these examples per day. Not this food is poisoned, this is that, oh my God, I cannot eat this anymore, I cannot walk there anymore, it's too dangerous, and so on and so on.
So mainly you mentioned about one makes decisions about how the life will go or influences to decisions. But if nothing was experienced before, how do you know if the decisions are leading you towards a good path? And probably I know the answer, but I would still like you to clarify a bit for our audience.
The only decision that ever I should make is to live life fully in this very moment. That is the 100% proof and guarantee that your life will come out perfectly. The moment you start to constantly control some outcomes, the moment you are entrapped in an illusion.
As conscious expands, we experience different state of altered state of consciousness. And a lot of us are also trapped in what we call out-of-body experience, lucid dreaming. I hear people, they want to be in astral body. What is the difference between out-of-body experience, lucid dreaming, being in this astral body, on altered state of consciousness that we can reach? Is there any difference?
Of course, we can reach different states of consciousness. And the moment we start to disidentify with the ego story, in that very moment, we are able to access more our astral body. Our astral body is kind of trapped in the physical body and trapped in the physical body by the story. That is the glue. The story is the glue. You see? And the more of that glue is there, the less the astral body can, for example, travel when the physical body is at rest and not in the doing and the thinking. Meaning, for example, when you sleep. You see? You might have experienced, some of you might have experienced, when you wake up in the morning, I have a beard, for me I can experience it very good, that either you have a lot of saliva around the mouth, or on your pillow is a stain of saliva in the morning. That means that you have been on an astral travel in the night. That is the physical, when the saliva runs out of the mouth, that is when the astral body has practically, in a way, disconnected from the physical body, and that is one of the physical signs. And in these nights where you are on astral travel, you will also realize that you don't remember any kind of dream. When you wake up in the morning, you don't remember anything. So you can observe that if you have this experience that you have a lot of saliva on the pillow or on your clothes or wherever, however you were sleeping, you will notice that in these nights there is no remembering whatsoever what was going on in the night. So meaning no dreaming, primitive dreaming whatsoever. And what happens in this astral travel? In this astral travel, I would like to call it, we are cleaning the astral body through this living light. We are cleansing. It's like, oh my God, give me a break for a moment. You see, like quite blunt explained. We go on a trip in a energy field that is much more subtle and less tense.
Many, let's call it philosophical thinkers or people are proposing that we are not just living on one timeline, that we are living on parallel lives or parallel timelines. and dimensions simultaneously. So how can parallel realities, timelines, however you would like to distinguish between them, can support the current life experience on Earth? How do they interfere?
Why would they interfere? If the choice of that human consciousness is to make its experience in this very dimension or reality, it is experiencing it with this consciousness in that very reality and not in another. There is a lot of talking of people being able to access many different dimensions. But who is accessing the different dimensions? This talking is all again from the ego lens. The human being in its story cannot access any other dimension than the third dimension. The human being that has freed itself from that story accesses all dimensions available at all time. Because what are all dimensions? What are these different layers? It sounds a little bit like when people in the New Age talk about these dimensions, it is very bad to be in the third dimension, but it's so good to be in the 11th dimension, or it's so good to be in the 9th dimension. Every human aggregate is a multidimensional being. The question is only where is the consciousness focusing on. If the consciousness is focusing on very much on physical matter, on achieving, on gaining a lot of products, it's focused on the 3D, on a very tense, on the third density, which is very hard. So the consciousness remains in that density. So it's always a question, where does the consciousness shifts its attention to? Everything is always accessible. Remember, cosmic intelligence is all dimensions. So where do you focus your attention to? Where do you focus your day to? Do you focus your day to in being in stillness, sitting, meditating? Or do you focus your day in running and achieving and earning money and buying a lot of stuff? And that defines in which kind of dimensions are you able to access.
How can one balance this experience on Earth, because we are still not completely there where we can, maybe I'm speaking about myself here, where you cannot only be in stillness and meditation. I mean, stillness you can have while doing any activities on this earth. But
we are missing the point here. The point here is, I hear a lot people in the New Age talking, oh, you know, I can access this dimension and that dimension and so on and so on. But they have missed the point. By definition, the choice of their soulic aggregate was to make the main experience in the 3D. By definition, right? If this soulic aggregate wanted to make an experience in the 9th dimension, in the 120th dimension, it would not have given life to a physical body. So it's the ego speaking, oh, look what I can do. But substantially, there is no such thing. As long as the soulic aggregate gives life force to that human expression. That is the dimension that is to be experienced by choice, by choice. And not because somebody decided it to do. And there is moments that this soulic aggregate will dissolve, and by dissolving in its singular soul strands again, it will experience other dimensions. It's like if I would say, look, I'm here now in Amsterdam, but I can experience New York and London and Rio de Janeiro, right? Mm-hmm. But by choice, I'm here. And that's the reality that I'm in. I'm not in London, in Rio de Janeiro, and New York. I'm here now. And that's by choice. And that's why I live the moment. That is the only the only reality that exists is that moment, right? So if in this moment the soulic aggregate expressed through the physical vessel, or given life to that physical vessel, decides to live life in the third dimension, it is not living life in the fifth dimension or in the 10th dimension. In this very moment, life is playing here.
And we need to embrace it.
Exactly.
As it is.
Exactly.
Very beautifully said. What's your perspective when we look for external validation on our own spiritual journey, let's say, or external, let's say we make decisions and we are constantly looking for others to validate our decisions or to influence?
Well, again, it's coming from a being that is living its reality separated from others in the outside. Because instead of having the knowing in the inside that this is right for me to do, it is projecting. It's projecting to the outside, and by that then needing to fish in that outside illusionary world, meaning getting validation, getting approval, and so on. It is when a being is feeling itself separated that is the point where this is the only point where I can come back to. When you feel, when your ego is so strong, when you have such a strong ego that you perceive yourself so separated from everything, as literally this only individual, and all the rest is a movie that is playing outside of me, and not knowing that you are actually the director of that movie and the actor of that movie yourself, right? But perceiving me and the other, then you are constantly in interaction with that illusionary me and the other. And what does me and the other do? It's kind of a ping pong game. I give you, you give me, I do this, you need to give me something back. Meaning I do this, you give me validation. But once you are dwelling within your own beingness, you don't need this kind of outer. When you're really dwelling deeply in your own beingness, you don't need these kind of outer stimulances and validations.
As we are also coming to the end of our episode, I have here a summary of the main factors that I could find online and through other conversation of what entraps us in this spiritual journey. I would mention a couple of them. I know that some of them we already touched based on, and give some more context onto it. And I would like to ask you how we can tackle some of them. So some of the factors are identity traps, right? We already have an episode on identity, and I would really urge everyone to see that first here. So awaken identity, clinging to a new spiritual persona that can create a subtle ego attachment, replacing one identity with another. Fear of losing the awakening experience, spiritual bypassing, you mentioned in our previous episodes. Fear of change and emotional processing difficulties. This is something that I would really want your perspective, and how do we get out of our comfort zone when we have this fear of change, right? The fear of really going into universal trust and unfolding of one experience. Disconnection and lack of grounding. Here I am more referring to the material world. Disconnect from the material world. We overemphasize on the spiritual realm. That can lead to a lack of presence and practicality, but we are still clinging on this material world very powerfully. Lack of a support system. Without a trusted mentor or community, the journey can feel isolating and confusing for many of us. We are becoming overly focused on tools, rituals, or image rather than doing our inner work, which is something that we just tackled through the questions. And then we have a lack of practical application. We are not integrating necessarily any teachings. We are listening, reading books, but everything stays on that state of reading and not really integrating. We are resonating many of times with what we hear, but we are not spending any time of integration, reflection, or so on. We are believing in a destination. So this journey, this spiritual awakening journey, is for us a destination rather than never unfolding process. And we are expecting, as we said, magic pills and quick fixes, if possible, where this path requires patience, deep inquiry of the self, and there are no shortcuts. And this is what I could gather from around the internet, but also through other conversations. So I know that some of them we already tackled. How would you answer to this fear of change and emotional processing difficulties, for example? What is your suggestions to our audience?
I think I said it already in one of the episodes. The pain just needs to get more. You know, if the pain yet is not, if the suffering has not reached a certain level that you cannot bear it anymore, there is no trigger to get out of that comfort zone. There is no trigger to change, you know. The trigger of change in a human life always, so let me put it that way. I said before that this is this is the heaven, and the potential in this heaven is to live in bliss. It is the heaven if we decide to live in bliss. If I decide to live in sorrow and suffering, it is anything but the heaven. So, whenever I live against the benevolence of life affirmation. And I do a lot of unnatural things. What happens? Within the human aggregate, in the body, there start to accumulate all this sorrow and all this pain that we have, mental pain whatsoever, traumas, they start to manifest in the physical vessel, or in the psyche, in the mental part of the physical vessel, as conflicts. This is nothing else than nature showing that pain, pay attention inside now, something is not going good. This is not something, any of these diseases or illnesses, they don't arise from now out of nothing because something happened on one day. It's an accumulation of living against the natural stream. And that's again, without judgment, everything is by the choice of that consciousness. So at one stage, this, I would say nature by itself, no entity, but nature by itself is really kicking you, is really giving you a big kick in the butt and saying, you need to do something now, you need to change something now. And that is mostly these trigger points when people are able to leave their comfort zone, because they realize that the comfort zone is not so comfort. You see? But before they don't realize that the comfort zone is anything but comfort, just a big illusion, it is difficult for most of humans to pull themselves out of that life that they have embarked to, meaning that line of study or job or family or whatever they are in. It is the trigger points that really set things. Of course, also then, still, I need to look at them. I cannot just overlook them. I need to really look at them, and I don't need to look. I need to look and say, oh, this is really now a hint from, I call it nature. It's a hint from nature that there must be a change. And then I am able to get out of the comfort zone. But the comfort zone is also something where the ego dwells, because the ego likes to be in a comfort zone. The ego likes to be seen by this certain amount of people as the persona is seen, right? Not big changes. It's good like it is, you know, and so on and so on. It's also this in life, these many commitments that we do with so many things. A human life is literally full of hundreds of commitments. Hundreds of commitments. And I'm not talking about small commitments that, you know, but general commitments to this person, to that person, to the job, to the boss, to the husband, to the children, to the mother, to the father, to the neighbor, to it's all kind of full of different commitments and agreements. And then the ego, you know, is entrapped in fulfilling all these commitments. And I would speak for at least 90% of humanity is completely getting overwhelmed by these commitments. But who is doing all these commitments is exactly the persona, is that ego again.
But we can also not live without the ego on this sort of experience, right? We can have less, but I did not meet yet a person without a powerful ego, let's put it like that, or doing actions from my ego.
Again, we have to define what the ego is, and I defined it in the beginning what for me the ego is. And yes, it is possible to live without an ego from what I define the ego, you know. it is possible to not feel myself separated. And there are, I'm pretty sure, thousands of people in the world who are living in that way, but exactly because they are living in that way, you don't know them and you don't hear of them, and they are not on the internet and they are not famous because exactly they are living like this. And there are others who became more famous, who were able to overcome that lens, were living the rest of their earth walk in full cosmic awareness. I didn't mention spiritual bliss. I only mentioned bliss.
Bliss.
Yes.
Bliss.
Yeah, there is no such thing as a spiritual bliss or an earthly bliss, or bliss is bliss in the expression of I would describe it as the feeling when everything just feels in peace. I don't want to call it good or perfect, but in peace. If everything is felt really, really, really peaceful, from that lens, I have a completely different perception of the world.
In the factors that I was enumerating as a summary that I could find online in different resources, but also in conversations with other people, it's the integration of different teachings. What is your advice, suggestion on how people can integrate everything that, even hearing this podcast can be a trigger or a pointer, a trigger into, when I say a trigger, many of us will resonate, many of us will get triggered because they have a different inner or outer or knowledge, I don't know. So what will be the right process of integrating, and why it's such a big challenge to integrate and practice that truth?
Yeah, the question is to integrate it where? Obviously, I think you mean to integrate into daily life, right?
Into daily life,
Okay.
yes.
But now the question is, what is daily life?
It's different for all of us,
Yes.
definitely.
My view is a view that is very difficult for many people to hear, because they don't want to hear these things. People always want to hear something that feels very comfortable, and I can do a little bit, as long as I can do my job and earn my money, it's all good. I don't want to give plasters to people. I'm not a person that there are many people, they are very good in that. They say, okay, if you do a little bit of that and a little bit of this, that will integrate with your life and everything feels good. I'm coming from a lens and from a consciousness of exactly that paradise and bliss here on earth. And in order to live this paradise and bliss here on earth, we need to not only change a little bit and try to integrate a little bit something into something. Because what means integration? Integration already means I'm in a comfort zone, and I'm actually not really willing to leave that comfort zone, but give me a little bit of something and I will try to integrate, to make little steps, right? It is like if you have an illness and you don't look at the root cause, but you're constantly trying to fix it with some remedies on the surface. You have a headache constantly and then you just take headache pills, right? And that's it. That's the bare truth. And I'm not giving headache pills as suggestions to people. So we cannot integrate our journey of remembering, which the spiritual path for me is actually called the journey of remembering, the path of remembering. Okay? So we cannot integrate this path of remembering into a hustled daily life of earning money and stressing from the morning to the evening in front of the computer and mobile phones. It's not possible. Even if you people who are listening to this podcast want to hear that, but it's not possible. It is not possible that you will ever make the breakthrough of the remembering. The question that we need to ask is, what have we as human beings designed here on this potential heaven and blissful earth that keeps us away from living this heaven and blissful earth? And that is the question that we need to really answer, and then radically, when we get the answer, we really radically need to change it and not wait for other people to change it and not wait for a government or a savior to change it. I need to change it in my life. That's the only way, however, any change can happen. Never change the world, never wait until the world is to be changed. Always change it for yourself in your daily life. And it is the fear that is holding us back, the fear of survival. But who is again in a fear of survival? It is the ego. It is the being that has not yet awakened to the fact that there is no such thing as a birth and a death. There is a transformation. The soulic aggregate gives life to a human body out of matter that already exists. And it goes back to that. And matter by itself is an illusion. It's all kind of a speck of a lot of cosmic pixels that we as human beings perceive as a solid matter. But in reality it's not. And it is a lot for the human mind to grasp and to understand, but once a certain base or ground is understood, then we can start to radically take changes. And it is not even so much really what I do. I can go on in my life and do the job that I did, but once I'm awakened to that journey of remembering, I am not doing it anymore from the lens of the ego. You know, I'm perceiving it more like a necessity for the human body to keep the human body alive. But we have constructed an extremely complex system in this world of keeping this human body alive. And in this time the human body is alive, how it is strapped, enslaved, milked, and whatsoever, that obviously it's a huge attack. And as I said before, the soulic aggregate is not made for all that bombardment. And so it needs an extremely strong spirit to tackle and deal with this bombardment. And always remember back to where the journey began and what life really is.
I'm extremely grateful for your presence and also your answers who, for me, were pointing in a deeper, profound understanding of complexities and challenges of spiritual awakening process, but also gave me an overview that is not a linear but rather dynamic process. I hope also for our audience was exploration, and I am waiting for some reactions in the comments below.
Thank you for joining us on this enlightening journey with another voice of the One Mind. We thank you for your support, and to ensure that you never miss a drop of this wisdom nectar, click subscribe and stay connected with us on the onemind.org. Until next time, may your path be illuminated with profound insights and growth.